Hello my loves and welcome back to my channel. Look at me looking semi-professional and cute today. I actually got creative with my outfit. I'm feeling myself a little bit. Now before we begin our December plan with me, I have something to share with all of you that is very important to me. Now I know a lot of you already know this because I have announced it on other platforms, but I had the most overwhelming, emotional, and proud month because I finally launched my stationery shop on Etsy. I've been wanting and wishing for this my entire life, and after not having this for a very long time, it took getting connected to myself and my creativity to even be able to take this step. But I did it and I am so proud of myself, so I just wanted to take a little bit of space out of this video to share my enthusiasm for this little milestone I reached. So many of you have supported this little dream of mine. I especially want to thank everyone over at my Patreon because they are honestly the foundation behind my courage. They believed in me month by month by helping create a community that is filled with love and joy and support, and for that I'm grateful. It would mean the world to me if you could just check out my shop. The links for it are in the description below, and if you don't have the means to buy something, then just like the shop, favorite it, or share it on your social platforms. That in itself is doing so much for me, and it would mean the world to me. So now that I've said what I needed to say, let's get into the December plan with me. Alright my loves, let's get started on the cover page for our December bullet journal setup. As always, all of the outlining, monthly numerical calendars, headers, borders, they are going to be done in a Sakura fine liner sepia tone. The header I believe was done in a 03, and then the outlining for the doodles is done in a 005. As you can see, the theme that I chose for this month is kind of, I guess you could say, craft supplies. I just didn't want to do a blatantly obvious holiday spread, so instead I went with things that you would use to make the holiday season happen, because all of those utensils and actions and whatever else is happening in the background also needs the spotlight. And I felt like it was just fitting because I just opened up my Etsy shop, and so I've just been using a lot of these supplies like twine, ribbons, buttons, so I just wanted to appreciate them a little bit by making my bullet journal theme about that. So if you're ever having a difficult time figuring out what to do as a theme for your bullet journal pages, I would always suggest, or what I always do I guess, is look to my life. What am I currently inspired by? What is grabbing my attention? Is there something I'm completely obsessed with or in love with or just am noticing as I go through life on the day-to-day? Look there and feel internally somewhere in your chest area, usually around the area where your heart is, and that is where you're gonna find your next bullet journal theme. I've seen some of the most creative themes, like people have been doing a Squid Game theme and they do it in their own style, which is kind of playful, whimsical, cute, and I just think the whole juxtaposition between such an aggressive show like Squid Game and making it in that type of style is just very fun and creative and kind of explorative as well. As you can see, the color palette is very neutral, like always. I love the earthy tones, you all know this. I did want the vibe to be a little bit more masculine, so I added hints of pink and light salmon in there. Yes, I am fully aware I used the term masculine while I was describing the color pink, because we are all about breaking gender norms over here. Although there is one exception to the rule, and that is when I am dating. I will gladly allow a man to pay for me, and we will not be having the conversation of equality in that scenario until women are actually treated with equality in society. Besides, I like to be treated. My love language is acts of service, so I will take it. And we get periods, so technically we will never be equal, because women and anyone who gets a period will always be suffering more if we have to deal with a monthly menstrual cycle. Anyways, I went way off topic. Let's get back to bullet journaling. As you can see, I didn't do the quote page. We're gonna do it a little bit later, so let's do the monthly calendar page. So I love layering doodles, so I made the December header within a tag, and I also made a handmade tag, which I think is so cute and fitting for the theme. I also think that when you round the corners of your border, it just softens up your whole entire layout versus having like that square 90-degree angled border. And I generally tend to gravitate towards a more whimsical, playful vibe anyways, so I think the rounded corners just fits very well, and I've just been using it a lot in my bullet journal journal this year. And then I added 2 sections here, one for the content creations list and then another for the administrative tasks, or just my regular to-do list. And then I have a little section here for my intentions for the month as well. If you've seen my last couple plan with me videos, you would know that I have a spot for next month as well, and I forgot to add it in this page, so I will kind of be creating another section for that later. So I haven't really talked too much about God on this channel. I've just had a very rocky relationship when it comes to my spirituality or higher power or higher self, whatever you want to call it. Everyone calls it something different. I've been an atheist my whole life, but then there came a turning point in my life where I kind of had to believe in something bigger than myself. Like, I couldn't really get sober without this belief in something bigger than me. So essentially, I learned how to define my own higher power. And my God doesn't look anything like the God that is taught to us as we grow up in society. My God is not the kind of God that is punishing or rewarding or critical or judgmental or banishes you to hell if you sin. In fact, my God is the kind of God that loves you more the deeper in misery you are. I also believe that God is way too vast, deep, and profound and loving to even be considered gendered. Calling God he or him has always made me feel extremely uncomfortable. Once I heard actually Glennon Doyle say that she always refers to God as she. And she said she does this and will keep doing this until it isn't so unimaginable for God to be considered as a woman. And that just hit my inner core being so much that now I just feel so comfortable whenever I refer to God as a she. I'm talking about all of this because the quote for this page is, "The opposite of faith is certainty." This is an Anne Lamott quote that I actually heard maybe a couple months ago, and it just stuck with me so incredibly deeply because I always believed that if I'm having doubts about whether or not God exists, that means that I must just not believe that there is a God or that I am even capable of having a relationship with a higher power or even the universe. But this quote actually tells me that you can't really even have faith unless you have some level of doubt as well. I feel like the second I become certain, absolutely certain about something is the exact second I stop growing and learning and seeking and being open-minded about the world and who I am. To be honest, this quote changed my whole perspective on spirituality and my connection to a higher power or universe, because now I can kind of just allow doubt to just be a part of the process instead of feeling any sort of guilt or shame for it, or even fearing that I'm never gonna get that connection back. Or sometimes I get jealous when I see other people and see how connected they are to themselves and their higher self and their true self and whatever their God is, right? Because sometimes I think that that is what I'm missing. I'm missing that connection to me and everyone else, and that happens through spirituality. But I think all of it is just a part of the process, and I thought I would share it if anyone else was kind of having these thoughts. So now let's move on to the habit and mood trackers. Okay, so if you've been here a while, you know that I basically never change my layout for this spread, but for once in my life, I actually changed it. So weird that I decided to do that in the last month of 2021. I think I just kind of started to feel a little bit complacent with my bullet journal and my art and creativity. And I've learned over the years that when I start feeling that way, it kind of just means that I'm starting to get comfortable, and that ends up making me feel a little bored and passionless. And then I kind of just start hating everything I'm doing. And then I immediately start thinking about how I suck and I've lost all of my creative juices. And then I land face first in a massive creative block. I've realized that the cure for this is often gently pushing myself to get out of my comfort zone and try something new or challenging, because we don't want to get complacent in our creativity. We want to keep growing and learning and experimenting. And for me, it happened to be in the last month of the year. This layout did take a little bit more time than the layout that I've been doing every single month, but I also think that's just because it's my first time creating it and I was actually trying to be fully present. I didn't even put anything on in the background like a podcast or a book or a TV show or anything, mainly because I really wanted to try to just be present and actually enjoy the creativity and the problem solving that usually comes with, creating a bullet journal spread. I say problem solving because with bullet journaling, you kind of have to figure out what works for you, what do your needs require when it comes to the kinds of spreads that you want to create. And also, I generally like to have everything look a little bit balanced composition-wise. But if you're new, I would not worry about the composition or the color palette and making everything match and all that yet. Actually, when I first started bullet journaling, I only created black and white page spreads because all of it was just way too overwhelming for me. And then slowly I started adding different shades of gray. And then over time, I added one color at a time. Actually, you can see my entire progression on Instagram. I have pretty much all of my page spreads posted there from the very beginning to where I am now. So my point is basically don't worry about the way it looks. Just sit down and create. All of that other stuff will come naturally all on its own if you stick with it. And remember, if the best you can do is replicate another creator's page spreads while also giving them credit, then that is enough, because the most amazing part of this is that you actually sat down to create something. By the way, I didn't really talk too much about my quote for that page because I went off on an entirely different tangent, but the quote says, "Creativity helps me pay attention to my beautiful life." Well, I kind of did talk about it a little bit when I was talking about how we need to pay attention to our life in order to figure out what we want to do for our bullet journal theme. So I think you get the point there. Now let's go back to the beginning to actually create our quote page. I ended up kind of going with a mini collage because I thought it fit well with the theme and just because I kind of wanted to have fun with it. I wanted to keep the collage very simple and minimal, and then I added some words to this paper doily to act as a reminder to myself, and I will read them to you now. It says, "Maybe my feelings never meant that I was weak. Maybe my feelings have actually been indicators pointing me in the direction to myself, who I've been, who I am, who I'll be. What is a bigger gift than the gift of knowing myself?" Anytime I start to feel some feelings, I immediately go into this shame and guilt spiral, and then I want to basically shut down. But if I have a little bit of willingness and self-awareness, then I can actually pause and become an observer of my feelings instead of giving all of myself and my power away over to my feelings. And then usually my feelings have some message for me. Maybe it's a boundary. Maybe it's me violating someone else's boundary. For example, lately I've just been feeling so overwhelmed and stressed out, and then I start kind of doubting myself and what I'm doing and who I am, and I think I need a whole career change. But actually what my feelings are trying to tell me is that I need to slow down and take more breaks and reevaluate what my priorities are. So I think my feelings are great message delivers if I am actually willing to pay attention and take action on them. So slowly, little by little, I'm trying to openly accept whatever I'm feeling without judging myself. But then if I do judge myself, I'm trying to forgive myself for judging myself. Okay, now let's move on. So remember when I said that I forgot to add the next month section in my monthly calendar page? Well, basically, as a solution to that problem, I created this spread. This page is gonna kind of act like a brain dump page, so I titled it Thoughts, Remember, Love, and Words. I feel like it speaks for itself, but basically anything that I want to remember or have thoughts on, or a quote, or something that I need to remember for next month, I will be jotting it down on this page. Okay, now let's get into the weeklies. So I decided to do something that I have not really ever done before. December is going to be a very, very, very busy month for me, not just because I just launched my stationery shop, but because I need to make 3 bullet journal YouTube videos and make my Patreon packages and make time for family and prep for the holidays and gift giving. I'm honestly a little bit terrified going into this month, but I'm trying to take it day by day, one thing at a time. So because I'm going to be incredibly busy this month, I decided to create all of my weekly pages right now instead of making time to make them weekly like I have been. I figured this would not only save me time, but it would also save some of my mental energy that is required to sit down and actually create and make something. So the way I'm doing this is by kind of creating this Dutch door booklet journal inside of journal type of situation, and each weekly will have its own tab. So I've seen plenty of creators do this on Instagram, and I've always wanted to try it myself. I wish I knew the first creator who ever did this because I would love to credit them. If you know, please go ahead and tag them below. So you want to start by figuring out how many pages you want in your little booklet. So I have 5 because I'm going to be creating 5 weeklies for December. Then you want to cut off the top and bottom strips. I used an X-Acto knife to cut out the page from the binding itself. You have to be very careful with this because I actually cut off the thread that actually binds the whole journal together, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Then before you start cutting out the outline of the tab, you want to make sure you have the outline of the tab drawn in like pencil. I divided the number of squares along the right edge with the number of pages I'm creating. So I think I had around 25 or 26 squares, which I divided that by 5. So it was around 5 squares for each tab. And then I cut out the outline and I made sure the tabs remained its square form because that just makes it easier for me to lay down the washi. Once I applied the piece of washi on both sides, I cut off the diagonal pieces to make it look more like a tab. I didn't worry about making these look perfect. I didn't make sure that all the tabs were exactly symmetrical with each other because at this point I was already spending so much time on my bullet journal pages. I kind of just wanted to be done. Trust me, it'll look a lot neater when it's done. The final 5th page didn't have a tab on it because that was actually the last page. I also added a piece of craft paper for the front of the book and also in the back of the book. I glued down the 5th page to the craft paper that's on the back. I made the dimensions of the back craft paper the same width as the width of the journal so that I'm able to flip the flap over to make it look as if the journal has its own binding strap, I guess. I also rounded the corners of my flap with my We Are Memory Keepers corner punch to give it a nice little, embellished feel. I also thought it would be pretty creative to add 2 tiny little hole punches in the flap so I can add a piece of twine that will bind the whole book together with a little bow. The addition of the twine is a cute idea, but I do feel like it's a little inconvenient because it takes time to tie the bow and also untie it. But I don't regret adding it because I do think, again, it looks cute and it was fun to create. So whatever, I can deal with the inconvenience. I think maybe I should have actually cut the twine just a little bit longer because I think because I cut it so short, it's a little bit difficult to tie. Then essentially I created each of my weeklies. I didn't add any doodles. They're just boxes and borders. I wanted to keep it very simple. At this point, I was already feeling a little exhausted from creating this little book. It took a lot of mental energy to figure out how to make this work. So basically, I just have, every day of the week. I made the weekends combined into one box. And I also added 3 lists to each page. I have a content creation list, a task list, and a gratitude list. I also tried to make all of the washi that is on the tabs kind of color coordinated. I wanted them to match not just the bullet journal theme, but also the craft paper. So I went with brown, neutrals, muted, grid, and vintagey patterns. We already passed it in the video, but on the cover of the booklet, on top of the craft cover, I created a little mini collage with a quote by Rumi. And the quote says, "We are born of love. Love is our mother." And I just think this quote is very profound and I like it a lot because I like love a lot. I also just used the same 3 or 4 different colors on each of the weeklies. And for each of the 3 lists, I just highlighted the area where I would be actually writing in whatever I need to write into the list itself. I could have actually made all of the borders and the weekly layout the exact same on each page, but I don't know. I figured it would be fun to just change it up just a tiny little bit each week. So all I really did was change maybe the structure of the layout and the border style. Here is the final flip through of my December plan with me. I am very happy with the way this bullet journal theme turned out. I had a lot of fun with mixing junk journal type of content with actually the very traditional doodle hands-on approach page spreads as well. I'm also just very happy that I created all of my weeklies in advance. Now I'm not going to have to worry about them the rest of the month. They're all done. I think that this booklet adds a very nice touch to my bullet journal. It thickens it up a little bit, makes it look a little used, and adds character to it. It's not perfect, and I kind of like it that way. You can actually see how the pages are not aligned at all. So overall, I'd say I'm pretty happy with it. Now I'll see you in the outro. Well, that's it for the December plan with me. I hope you liked it or learned something new. Before I let you go though, I want to talk a little bit about my Patreon, because you might be wondering, why would I support you on Patreon? Because I could just buy something from your Etsy shop. Isn't that supporting you? What is so different? Well, let me tell you what is different. So yes, with Etsy and Patreon both, I will be shipping goodies and products over to your mailbox directly, but I usually add a bunch of other goodies in with the Patreon packages. And if you're in my Patreon, you get a 10 to 15% discount to my Etsy shop depending on which tier you join. And on Patreon, not only do you get the physical goodies, but you also get digital content too, like monthly lettering sheets, monthly wallpapers, and we also have a book club where we read a book together every single month. Sometimes we skip the book club and do something else. Like for December, we're doing a Happy Meal White Elephant where we all get matched up with each other, which is, I'm excited about it. We also have a meeting, like a video call every single month at the end of the month to talk about the book and just check in with each other and hang out. And this is the best part, but you get access to a community who cares about all of the same things you care about. We talk about bullet journaling, self-love, self-care, mental health, fitness, plant care, happy meal, crafting, journaling. We talk about everything under the moon and sun, and it is just a very close, tight-knit community that I love and enjoy being a part of, and I would just be so happy if you joined us. So if you want to support me on like a deeper connection community level, then Patreon might be for you. Plus all the art and designs and stickers that I create, I give to my Patreon community before I post on my Etsy shop. So I know I just had a very long intro and outro for this video, so thank you, and I appreciate you very much if you are still here. But now I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go eat some pecan pie, and I hope you have a lovely day. And if no one told you they loved you today, I love you very much.